we're going to start the tutorial. So we're teaching bash today. So we have a couple of terms to define first. And the first one of those is Unix. So this is an operating system that was developed in the 1970s by Kernighan, Ritchie, and I don't know if at least Kernighan and Ritchie were involved. So Unix is kind of like the granddaddy of all the most operating systems used today. So it's the parent of Mac OS and every variant of Linux that's ever been made. So these OSs, they share a very similar set of functionality. The backend is essentially the same. They've just changed it up over the time. Since the 70s, that's been 50 years now. And you can collectively refer to any operating system derived of the Unix tree as *nix. We'll be talking more about that later. The next thing we're going to define is what a shell is. So bash is a variant of a shell. It's a program used to interface with the operating system's functionality. That's all it does. It's just a program. It's not the operating system itself, anything like that. So now we've got what a shell is. Bash is the born again shell. So bash was actually derived from another shell called the Bourne shell. So you can wonder where it got its name. Bash is used with pretty much every *nix environment. But it's also not the only shell that can be used with *nix environments. So Mac OS uses something called Z shell. Z shell is a superset of bash. So you can do everything you can in bash in Z shell and more. So if you're on Mac OS and you've got something open, absolutely follow along with us as well. So getting started, since we've got 13 people on right now, I would love for you all to have a Mac OS shell, or Linux shell, a bash shell, if you're SSH to the servers, if you know what those are. That would be great. I would love you to be following along with this tutorial. I'm not going to anticipate it though either. So I'm going to run them all through on my own side as well, so you can see what all the commands do. A couple of notes. If you'd like to follow along, don't pull up a Windows command prompt. That will not work. Or a PowerShell window. It's a totally different set of commands. You know how I was talking about how a bunch of operating systems came off the Unix tree? Windows went a separate direction entirely. Nothing is interoperable. But you can use bash with Windows. And if you're a first year, something like that, this is a great idea to have. So one option is using WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux. That's available on Windows 10. You just have to download it or something now. I'm not sure. I'm using Linux now, the most modern version of Ubuntu. Another good idea, if you're not on Windows 10, if you're on Windows 7 or something, there's something called git bash. And that allows you all the access of bash on Windows as well. So one of the two, having either is a great idea though. So we're going to start talking about, oh God, good thing that beer was mostly empty. We're going to start talking commands. And the first one we're going to talk about is ls. So ls, it lists ls, you see how I did the colors there? I think I'm very smart. Files and folders in the current directory that you're in. So in the present directory, something to note, in the shell land, so if you're in bash, that sort of thing, we use the word directory instead of folder. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. So it's a good idea to know. So if you ls here, then we can see we've got a couple of files and folders in this directory. We've got example code.c, so that's a C source code file. We can see we've got example dir, so that is highlighted yellow. You can see how it's different from the highlighting of the just regular file here. So that's to indicate it's a directory. And then we've got example file here. And it's also worth noticing that there's no file extension here. In Unix-based systems, you just have no requirement to have a file extension, and caps doesn't matter. Sorry, I should say caps does matter in a Unix system. So if you had this as a capital E example code, that would be a different file than lowercase e example code.c. All right, so we've got ls. Next is talking about arguments to ls. So ls dash or minus al. So list all long. What this does is lists all files and folders in the present directory in a descriptive manner. So we can see we've got some output from ls-al down here. So it lists all. By that it means it lists hidden files. So in Unix, any file that starts with a dot, we see a bunch of these here, is natively hidden. So if you just regularly ls, you won't see it. So that's what the A does. The L lists all long. So that means it's listing everything in a really descriptive manner. I'm not going to go, I don't actually know what all of these fields mean, to be honest, but it lists every pretty much feature you might want to know about a specific file. So we've got ls. The next most important command, if you're using the command line, is cd, change directory. So what this takes is the directory you would like to change to as an argument. So we can see we've got a little bit of terminal here. We've got ls, we've got our example dir that we talked about earlier from the ls, and then we're cding into that directory. cd takes that directory as an argument. And we can see that our current working directory has changed. As we've done that, we can see where our intro documents not code intro to bash, and we've moved into the example directory folder. So this little piece here on your terminal shows you your present working directory. So that should be good. We're going to go run through a little bit of terminal commands natively here. So let's pull up a terminal, and well, we're going to try first cd with just ... So we remember that we saw that in ls-al, right? That there's a dot and a ... folder there. So we should be able to cd into them, right? cd ... And we can see, interestingly, we've gone to /home. So what this has done is taken us one directory up in the directory hierarchy of the Linux system. So we've gone from what's known as, we've gone from the tilde directory to the home directory. So like ls here, you can see we've got my own account there, so we can cd back into that. And we're back in the same place. The next thing we're going to do is try cding without any arguments at all. So I'm actually going to cd ... again. So if we cd without any arguments, what this will do is bring you back to your tilde directory or your user's directory. So at any time, if you just want to go back to have a fresh start on the terminal, cd, no arguments, will work for you perfectly. And the last thing we're going to do is cd ... Now, that was another one of those folders we saw in ls-al, but we notice when we do the command, nothing happens. Now, this is an intentional feature, even though it seems kind of strange. Why would you want a directory that goes to your current directory again? But this makes a lot of sense in the context of other applications that use bash. So if you are, say, working with git, it's a very common thing to do git add ... So what that means, I'm not going to go over the git side of things right now because that's out of scope, but add ... means add everything in the current folder to the command that we're using git for. So that's just a couple of little commands there. All right. So moving on from cd, I've actually got some notes here about what actually happened, but we did it in person, so nothing to worry about there. The next thing we're going to talk about is, rather than a command, a concept. How are directories organized in the Unix systems? So the first thing is /, just the folder / is the file system's root folder. So every other directory in the system is what's known as a child of /. So you can access it from / you can reach everything. So the next definition we'd want to talk about is, what is a path name? And this is an important thing to note. It's a sequences of directories or file names separated by a /. So that's not separated by the root directory, it's just separated by the symbol /. So we've got a path name here, documents /notcode /intro bash. And that's the path to the intro bash directory. And then we've got a path to a file here. So you can have paths to directories, you can have paths to files. That's perfect. The next thing is the tilde directory is your home folder. And we already experienced that with the cd without arguments. Stream live. I can't tell if the stream is live and working, so let's make sure. Okay, cool, excellent. So moving on from directory organization, we've got a kind of sub-concept under that. So we've got the idea of path names, but there's also the idea of an absolute path. So that is a path name starting with that / character. It's a path name starting at the root of the file system to the document or directory that you want to reach. So we've got an example of an absolute path here. Oh God, that's what I'm Thank you, Jared. Programs. All right, so so we've got an example of an absolute path there. It's how to navigate from the root folder to a file or directory. So I like analogies. So it's like giving the directions to a location based on your current address or based on the location's address. So it's like saying the address of the Denny's by campus is whatever this is. I don't want to read it. And the pwd command produces an absolute path to your current working directory. All right. Now, to contrast absolute paths, we have relative paths. Now, a relative path is any path name that does not start with a slash. So we've got an example of a relative path here, and it looks just like an absolute path, but there's no slash on the front. So that's this, not code /intro/bash /example dir, is a relative path to the example dir directory from, I'm going to guess, the documents folder. So it's how to navigate from the directory you're currently in to the directory you want to go to. And an important thing to note here is, remember that dot we had talked about earlier with the cd dot, that is a relative path as well. Cd dot is a relative path to your parent directory. So in the name of analogies again, this is like giving directions based on your current location. So say you're on campus and you're said the Denny's is a couple blocks southwest of campus. So that's a relative path to Denny's, and the address is the absolute path to Denny's. And I wouldn't recommend actually trying to direct people to Denny's with paths. But anyway, so we've got some more exercises here, so I can show you guys what's going on in the terminal. So we're going to utilize an absolute path first. So cd without arguments, that will take me back to the same place. I was already in the home folder. Now we're going to use pwd, that command I mentioned just a little bit earlier, to generate the absolute path to my current location. So pwd, enter. So our absolute path to our current location is from the root folder to the home folder to the Gwin8 folder. Cool. So we'll copy that, Control-Shift-C. I'm actually going to go turn on a little app. Give me a second. Screen key. So this should allow you guys to see the hotkeys I'm typing. I hope that will work well. Oh, what's the difference between cd and cd tilde? That would be exactly the same. So actually, let's do that right now. So cd, let's cd dot first, so it actually does something. Cd takes us back to the tilde directory. Cd dot, cd tilde does exactly the same thing. So you've got the same command either way. So what was I doing? I was utilizing an absolute path. So we're copying this path, Control-Shift-C, and we're going to paste it back on. So we're going to cd, paste that path, and then generate a path to the documents directory using the results of pwd. So let's use slash again, and then documents. And I'm going to mention this again later. You can use tab completion in the shell. And that makes typing in long path names or directories, that sort of thing. If you press tab, it will do its best to complete it. So cd, and then press enter. And see, like magic, we're in the documents folder. I mean, not particularly interesting, but it's honestly took me a long time to get a good feel of the difference between an absolute and a relative path. So if you guys have that now, that's a really nice thing to have. The next thing we're going to do is utilize a relative path. So we're going to cd back to home, and then cd / documents first. Documents tab complete. Okay, we're in the documents folder. Now, the idea is, how do we devise a relative path to the downloads folder from documents without CDing around a bunch? So let's do that. CD, and remember when I was talking about the dots there? CD ... So that goes to our parent directory, / that's a question mark, /, and now we're going to go to downloads. Downloads. Perfect. So we're in. Wow, that screen key is not putting out useful. Yeah, that's not that useful. But whatever, I'll leave it up for now. So we've utilized a relative path as well. So you guys, if you have any questions on that, I can go over it a bit more too. So we've dealt with paths. Let's move on to the next subject we're going to cover, and that is command line text editors. And now we are really blowing through the content here. So if you guys do have any questions at any time, do let me know. I can cover it, because this will not run for an hour. It's not like you had to stay at university anyway to come see it. So I'm going to teach a text editor called Nano. Now, there are many text editors available for you to use, and many people have very strong opinions on them. Come here. I have chosen, I mean, there's other options like Nano, there's Emacs, there's Vim. I have chosen Nano because I feel like it's the easiest to learn out of all of them. So that's why I've taught it, because this is an intro class to Bash. So it's good to choose the easiest choice. Okay, so to use Nano, what you want to do is use Nano, the command, and then the file name. So if you want to open a file with Nano, you just type in the file name. If you want to create a new file with Nano, it's exactly the same. Just type in the file name you want to create. Come here, Tika. Come here. I can't have you walking around. I'm trying to stream. Now, this is also something that got me a kind of stupid long time to understand. You see this little hat key? I don't know what the right name for this is. That means control, then that key. So we can see that there's these, many of the hotkeys are listed in the bottom bar. So hat key means control key. M-key means alt, then that key. I don't know if that's different on other keyboards. So if you're on macOS or something and that's not true, I'm sorry, I have no idea. But that's what I've experienced with Windows keyboards and Linux. So. And then the next big question, and this is a big problem for other editors like Vim in particular, Control X is to exit Nano. So if you Control X and follow the prompts, you'll leave no problem. Okay. Now we're going to talk about a couple of important hotkeys for Nano. Now, what I find, I really judged this by what I found myself doing the most. So to highlight text, it's just as you normally would on a standard text editor, or a GUI text editor, as I should say, not standard. So you use Shift and arrow keys to highlight text in a specific way. So Shift, right will highlight some text. If you want to stop holding the Shift key and just set a mark, you can type in Alt-A, so Alt-A, and that will mark a spot, and then you can use the arrow keys to highlight that space. So that's nice to have too. Another hotkey, copy. Now, I don't know what the hell is really going on with this, but I've had some troubles just trying to use Alt-M to copy, Alt-6 to copy text. I do Alt-Shift-6, and that works quite consistently. So that's what I'd recommend you guys do. To cut text, just Control-K, and as something to remember here, they call it killing text. So that's a nice way to remember it. Cutting is killing text. To paste text, it's Control U. And to undo what you've done, it's Alt U. Now this is a hotkey that's not listed in the Nano bottom bar, but I really like it. It's autocomplete. So that's Alt side bracket. That's Control side bracket. Now what that, oh God. What that does is it sees the word you're currently working on, and it will try to autocomplete it to words that have previously appeared in the document. So that's great when writing code and you've got a long file name. Oh yeah, so I've got a question. Is there any advantage to using a text editor in the terminal rather than a text editing application? Yes, there is. So in the most specific use case, if you have to SSH or remotely connect to another computer, you're going to be doing that via the command line natively. So say you had an assignment that you wanted to test on the school servers, because all your assignments will be marked on the school servers. So it's a great idea to test them there. If you just wanted to do a couple of edits on that file once you had brought it over, doing it on Nano or something like that is a lot quicker. And I've personally found that I've been using Nano more and more for just really simple text editing applications. Like I've been taking my notes for my class in Nano, and that's because it's really lightweight. Like there's not a lot of other stuff to distract you, like in Word, that sort of thing. It's just typing text, and I find that really personally appealing. But no, it's definitely a useful skill to have. And if you're a first year coming up, learning this now would give you a head start into your upper year classes, because it will make your upper year classes quite a bit easier too. So I hope that answered your question well. So Nano, I've covered all of this text here. Yeah, CPSC 355 is when I started all this stuff, for sure. I did all my editing in, I think, Emacs, and that's a lot more than you need for most things. But yeah, so we're gonna interact with Nano a little bit. So let's open her up. First of all, let's clear that. So Nano, let's give our file a name. I mean, example.txt. So we've got Nano open. The next thing we're going to do, we're just going to type a little bit of text into Nano. So whatever. I like asdaf. That's my favorite little bit of text. You all know. Now we're going to highlight that text. So we're going to use Shift, and then we're going to use the left arrow key to highlight. Now this works a little bit different than you expect. You might think that this A key is not highlighted at the moment. It is. So now let's copy that text. So let's use Alt. Oh, we got Alt Shift 6. So that should be, and then paste it with Control U. So we've copied and pasted text in the terminal editor. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but once you start building up these little skills, it becomes a lot more usable and really quite efficient. So we've typed some text. We have copied some text. I'll probably show off some of the other hotkeys because we're not hurting for time here. So let's start typing as, and let's pretend this was a really long thing that I didn't want to type the full thing in. Control, right square bracket, auto completes it. So that's great for long variable names. I mean, we can show off cut. So Shift, actually let's do it differently. Alt A sets a mark. So you can see that it's holding its place without me holding Shift. I don't know if you can see that, I guess you can't. And now let's do Control K. So that's cut everything out. Now to paste it again, Control U. Sweet. I think that covers most of it. So I'm gonna exit Nano, so Control X. And you can see we've got a little prompt down here, save modified buffer. I mean, let's save it. I mean, this was a lot of fun, so it'd be a nice thing to remember. Yes. Now name for file to write. You can rename your file here if you want to. I find I just do Control X, enter, enter quite a bit. Control X, Y, enter, enter. That's quite common for me because I rarely want to change my file name here. So we're out of Nano. Cool. If we were to use Vim, I don't even have Vim. Do I have V? It's like QA. There. Isn't that intuitive to exit? It's really quite incredible. I mean, all my interactions with Vim are just leaving Vim, so cool. We've got Nano sorted then. Now we've got a couple of miscellaneous little commands to deal with here. So we've got move, copy, and make directory. Make directory. So mv, cp, mkdir. First of all, move is used to move or rename files. Now, I'm going to emphasize the rename files part of this, because it's not exactly what you would expect from, I mean, most operating systems interactions you would have had in a graphical way. So, if you want to move a file, you supply the file's name, normal name, and the renaming that you want to have for it as the second argument for the move. Another thing to note, now this is kind of a confusing sentence, so I'll hope to demonstrate it later. If a directory is supplied, then the destination file will be moved and keep its name. I mean, maybe a better way would be to give an example of this. So ls, we're in downloads. Let's move a file. So let's move readme, because I forget what I made earlier. So move readme, and then just ... So we can see, I mean, I don't know if you can see, but readme is gone from here now. Let's cd back, Control L, and then let's ls, and we'll find that the readme has just appeared in this directory. So you don't always need to supply the name when you're moving files around. I'm going to delete this readme now, but because I don't want it. Readme, cool. So we've got move sorted. The next thing is copy, and copy works exactly how you would expect it to work. It just works exactly the same way as move, and just creates another file. So you designate the name of the file you want to copy and the name you want to give it. No, I don't know cd dash. I've never used it before. Let's see what it does. Oh, okay, so that works like pwd, right? So I guess, yeah, as Jared is saying then, cd dash is the same way to do pwd. So whichever way you like. cd dash will bring you to the previous directory you were in? Will it? Okay. All right, cd ... cd dash. Oh, you taught me something, Jared. Thank you very much. I had no idea. I've always wondered how to do that. Cool. Back. Thanks, everybody. Learning lots. Send muffins. I don't know. So the next one to talk about is make directory. And this also works exactly how you might expect it to. Make directory, mkdir, directory path. So if you're just in a directory, say you're in downloads and you want to make a directory, you can just mkdir and dir. I'm going to say a lot of dirs in this one. And then ls. We can see, oh god, there's so much in here. mkdir, dir, ls. We can see we now have a dir directory. But we can also mkdir and supply it a path. So /documents. Documents /dir. Well, that didn't work. So just mkdir dir, I guess. I don't know. You probably can supply it a path, and it just wasn't working well from. Oh, you know why? Because mkdir documents /dir. I was using an absolute path there. You see? See how that little slash is in the front there? That was because there's no directory from the root documents to dir. There is a relative path for where I am from documents to dir. So that's a difference. Cool. So we've done move, we've done copy, we've done make dir. Cool. The next thing we're going to talk about is rm. Now, before I talk about removing files, I'll need to tell you how important it is that there is no recycle bin in Unix or Linux or anything when you're working at the shell. So be careful. Don't go doing stupid things like this down here, and don't do this at home. Don't try it at home. Oh my God, Google's blocking it. Sudo rm-r/star. That will probably break your system. I didn't test it because I don't want to try it, because I don't want to break my system. So I would not recommend trying that at home. Please don't, and if you do, don't blame me. Oh, thank you, Light. Yeah, much appreciated. I was close anyway. So to remove a file, you do rm file path. Simple as that. So exactly what you would expect it to be. Yeah, it's kind of creepy actually that you can kill your entire operating system in one tiny command and you just delete all your shell yeah, oof. Anyway, as mentioned before here, rm-r, that's an argument to the rm program, and then you supply it a directory path. We'll remove a directory recursively. So if you're in first year or anything like that and don't know what recursion is, I wouldn't worry about it, and it's out of scope for what we're currently going to talk about. But what it will do is delete that directory and then continue deleting everything in its child directory and everything in the child directories of its child directories. It will wipe clean anything inside of it. So use rm-r with a lot of care. Don't go rm-r in folders that you want, because it will be gone, and that is not what you want. Okay. Now, an important concept for bash is regular expressions. So if you're a first year, you probably won't know what this is. If you're in a second year and have taken 313, that's, I mean, quite a bit of the course. I don't know if that's been covered yet, but anyway. Regular expressions are used to define a pattern of text. So I think it's best to explain this with an example instead of trying to give more fancy words. So say you wanted to delete a bunch of files that all have similar names. So say you have a bunch of files with .exe extensions. They have similar names. You would feel like you can group them in some manner, right? Well, the command rm star, so the star key on your keyboard, .exe will, and this is kind of, it will match with any arbitrary text of characters, so anything which is followed by a .exe. So if the command rm star.exe, we can see it's deleted both of these files. And you can use the star anywhere in, like you don't have to use the star just at the front. I don't know if I have a good example built in. So I could do ls, I don't know if you can do this. I don't have a good example of regular expressions offhand. I mean, ls-al pipe grep d star. Let's see if that works. Grep. Hey, that did work. So I wouldn't worry about what this means right now, because this is definitely not intro to bash. But what I'm trying to show you is you can use the star anywhere, not just at the front or the back. So there's way more to bash regex as well. And I'm going to do this right now in case anyone has found this valuable and has an inclination to refer back to this. I'm going to post the link in chat. So if you all are at all interested. So if you want to learn more about bash regex, because it's struck some bone for you, you can find the link there. So we've got regular expressions sorted. We're actually coming up on the end of the material I have created, but we've got 2 more concepts left. So these are the tricks to become a sweet hacker man, guys. You can use the up and down arrow keys, and you probably saw me doing this through the entirety of the tutorial, to view your commands that you have previously entered. So if you move up, if you press the up arrow key, it will move to your previous command. If you move the down, it will move to the last command you did. So that's great. I use that all the time. I don't know if I would really want to curl just a random bit.ly link. But if you guys want to try, please go ahead. And on the note, curl is something that, again, not important for an intro to bash, but to show that what you can do for it. Curl actually takes a web address and it pulls down the file found at that web address. So that's what Light Tech is typing in chat there, although I don't recommend it. Or if you want to, go ahead. I don't care. So up and down arrow keys. The next thing is you can use the tab key to complete commands or path names. So you probably saw me doing that earlier, but, well, I talked about it earlier. So if you start typing documents and get as lazy as I do, you can start pressing the tab key and then realize, hey, there's two files, two folders, there's documents and there are downloads. So I need to type in more of this command. But the tab key will help you auto-complete. If you double press the tab key, you'll get a list of all the possibilities for your to finish completing that command. So I use tab completion just all the time. So I highly recommend you guys take a look at it too. Another thing is reverse I search. So that is you do Control R on the command line, and it will allow you to search through all your previous commands, looking for something that you, say a compile command if you're in 355 that you had lost before. So let's try a couple of those. First, I'm going to Control L. That's the hotkey to clear everything out. If you just didn't want to memorize Control L, you can just type in clear at the command line. So up and down arrow keys, you can see, simple as that. It's not that interesting. Tab key. So if I start typing in doc and then I start pressing tab, oh, really? DO, I get to DO usually, and then start pressing tab. It gives me a selection of options of how to complete that command. So CD, documents/downloads are my options. It took me a long time to actually documents learn that one, but double pressing the tab key can help you. It can help you avoid having to ls all the time. Essentially, it does the same thing unless you're looking for hidden files or anything. So CD, we're gonna go back. So I mentioned the tab key, double press tab. Oh, and the reverse I search. So we can see we've got the reverse I search little prompt on the screen there, and we can start typing and looking for commands. So what did I type in here? ls, and here's that long command I typed in earlier, ls-al grep star. So if I wanted to use that command again for whatever reason, I can, which is sweet. The next thing, I mean, we've got two more left here. We can use man command to view the commands manual page. So if you say forgot everything we learned today and want to learn more about CD, type in man CD. Oh, there's no entry for CD, really? ls? There we go, it has one. So we can see there's a lot of technical information in here. So if you're trying to get examples for how shit is supposed to work, I don't know if I really love manual pages for that, but what they're great for is in the case of, is my cat just coughing up a hairball over there? That's sick, whatever.
No, sorry.
What?
Sorry.
So yeah, you can use the man pages if you want more information about commands. Yes, what Jared is saying, Fireberry is saying in chat. Wait, really? I think if you press H or something, it will tell you a lot about the previously used commands. Let's try that. H. Is that what you meant, Jared? Just H? I mean, we'll come back to that later when the stream delay has stopped. The next thing is sudo. So, for a lot of commands, especially like if you're trying to download a package, like there's something called apt in most bash systems. So apt is what's called a package manager. The full command should be history, but I think H is a shortcut. Okay, so history? Oh yeah, so history will show every command that you've used. H doesn't seem to work for me, but dash H. I don't know. Control L. Cool. So we were talking about sudo. I find I use this most when I'm trying to download a package with apt. So when you're trying, I don't know what to download, I can't think of anything. But if you have a command that it's just not working for whatever reason, and you're not on the school servers because you don't have super user permissions, I find that it's really effective. It's not really effective. It fixes a lot of problems that you have. So if you find a command won't work and you're working on your own machine, sudo, try it again. Maybe that's not great advice because it would lead to you just trying out random commands with super user privileges, but whatever. I mean, do everything at your own risk. But that is all the slides I have got at this point. So if anyone has any questions, or I don't know, want some fucking assignment help or something, I'll stick around in the chat. I'll stick around for a little bit longer until people leave.